This video was made in partnership with CuriosityStream. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you probably know by now that I generally consider lizards to be low-tier builds. However, due to a recent experience, I've decided to revisit the iguana build to do a more in-depth analysis. Iguanas do have some surprisingly effective abilities that are worth highlighting. But before we get into their abilities, let's first discuss their base stats. Iguanas have an intelligence stat higher than most lizards, which unfortunately isn't saying all that much. While it's nowhere near the level needed to grant them tool use or problem-solving capabilities, it does at least grant them low-level social capabilities. Their power stat is slightly below average, which again is higher than most lizards. This is pretty much just due to their large size, which allows their basic claw strikes, tail swipes, and bites to deal more damage than smaller lizards. Their best offensive move is Tail Whip, which we'll talk about in a bit. The iguana build doesn't possess any special offensive abilities, which makes sense given that they gain most of their experience through foraging rather than PvP. On defense, iguanas have the reptile faction's standard defensive bonuses from their scale attribute, which negates all damage below a certain threshold and offers a high defensive bonus against slash-type damage, while being vulnerable to bashing and piercing attacks. This offers better protection than soft skin or fur, but less effective than exoskeletons or shells. In terms of mobility, players are often surprised at how effective the iguana build's burst movement options can be. While their basic walking speed is deceptively slow, iguanas can sprint short distances quite quickly. However, one of the reptile faction's signature weaknesses is their low maximum stamina, due to their three-chambered heart. As a result, this burst of speed can only be used a few times over short distances. And even then, these bursts of speed aren't always fast enough to escape more mobile builds, like dogs or raptors. However, in terms of versatility, iguanas have a lot of movement options not just for moving on land, but for arboreal and aquatic zones too. Iguanas can climb quite effectively and have no trouble swimming, and this is all without wasting evolution points on abilities like cling pads or webbed feet, which require sacrifices in other stats. Their claws make for effective enough climbing tools, and their tails make for great paddles, meaning there are very few environments that are downright unplayable for iguana mains. In terms of HP, iguanas are again better than most lizards, but still not exactly top of the charts. Still, iguanas can tank a good amount of damage, enough to get out of tough situations. In fact, one of their main abilities is all about tanking a severe hit in order to escape. Again, we'll come back to that. For stealth, iguanas have pretty basic camouflage, which works great as long as they stick to whichever environment they've spec'd their stealth for. Obviously, iguanas that have spec'd into green camouflage, which works great in jungles, will have their cover consistently blown if they venture into city biomes. Meanwhile, those with gray camouflage get a stealth bonus in rocky or urban terrain, but can't hide as well in grasslands. But enough about the iguana stats, because honestly, just looking at those, this lizard build still looks mid-tier at best. Let's check out the iguana build's key abilities. These abilities revolve around the iguana's tail and the iguana's neck dewlap. Let's begin with their dewlap. The dewlap provides the iguana build with a few important abilities, mostly useful outside of combat. The first is that it can be used for temperature control, similar to the elephant's ears or the Spinosaurus' sail. They can be tilted towards the sun to grant a cold resistance buff, and can be flushed with blood to grant a heat resistance buff. This versatile ability can allow iguanas to thrive in a variety of environments, from jungles to deserts to islands. The dewlap's second ability is that it can be used for intimidation. By flashing their brightly colored dewlap, they can inflict an intimidation debuff on an aggressive or overly curious nearby player. This is essential to the iguana's game plan, since its actual combat abilities are rather limited. The iguana's tail is integral to the iguana's combat moveset. The move iguana players favor the most in battle is Tail Whip. Because the iguana's tail comprises about half of their total body length, this attack can have deceptively long reach. This, combined with its extremely low startup lag, makes it an excellent zoning tool that allows the iguana to control space quite effectively. While it deals relatively low blunt force damage, it does also have a chance to inflict a stun, giving the iguana player a chance to escape combat if need be. This attack does have a lot of end lag though, meaning that if the attacking player can bait out or dodge a swing, the iguana is left wide open for a counterattack. Overall though, this attack serves its purpose decently well at keeping away rushdown builds like dogs, cats, and birds. This attack punishes players who approach carelessly and forces opponents to respect the iguana's space. However, because of this attack's low direct damage, players running high HP builds may elect to just tank the hit and continue their approach, usually going for a grab. In this situation, the iguana's only option is to use their other tail-based ability, Autotomy. This ability costs a large chunk of the Iguana player's max HP to activate, and can only be used once, but functions as one of the best escape options in the game. The user drops their tail and uses it as a distraction to flee. If the attacking player falls for the bait, this can save the Iguana player from certain defeat. However, some builds, particularly those with a higher intelligence level, may be able to resist the distraction and continue to pursue the player, so it's not a surefire escape despite its high cost. Personally, I really dislike this ability, especially on the Iguana. Many lizard mains use this ability to great effect, but because the Iguana relies so heavily on their tail, I personally would opt for a different defensive option, because using Autotomy also renders Tail Whip unusable. Without a tail, Iguanas are forced to fall back on their much less effective bite and scratch attacks, neither of which I'd consider much of a threat in combat. Overall, the Iguana's combat strategy is solid in most situations, but can completely fall apart against players who either know the matchup or have the right resistances to the Iguana's abilities. So I think it's safe to say that Iguanas definitely aren't overpowered. Still, they're undoubtedly higher on the tier list than average lizards, because they have great matchups against several relevant builds, particularly cats. The basic green Iguana I think belongs in B tier, below the more oppressive builds in the meta, but well above low tier trash like frogs and snails. And I think I have to give the specialist Iguana build, the marine Iguana, an even higher rating for getting into a niche that no other lizard currently was able to succeed in. Being able to contend with the likes of sharks and sea turtles definitely speaks to a highly successful build. In fact, only one other time in the history of the game has a lizard build taken to the sea and succeeded, and those were the players that eventually developed the Mosasaurus build. And who knows, maybe by the next major expansion, the Iguana build will adapt to become one of the most overpowered builds in the entire ocean. Thanks so much for watching, and before you go, I wanted to talk a little bit about another video I made. It's a more narrative-driven video that focuses on a single playthrough of a powerful dinosaur build called Dinokairos. This claw-wielding dinosaur is an incredible fighter, and in my video I demonstrate exactly how effective its combat strategies were. I was able to create this video with funding and production assistance from Nebula, and so Nebula is where that video lives. Nebula, if you didn't know, is a new streaming service created and owned by creators, and it exists to provide a haven for creators to experiment with new video types and collaboration styles, something I'm a major supporter of. And the best way to get access to this platform is through our partnership with CuriosityStream. Most of my viewers know by now that I've endorsed CuriosityStream several times, and for good reason. They have some of the best documentaries and nonfiction content around, and they're also the reason I get to incorporate high-quality paleontology documentary footage in many of my videos. If that wasn't reason enough for you to like them, they're also partnering directly with Nebula to give everyone the best possible deal imaginable, a free trial of both services, and a membership to Nebula for all new CuriosityStream users. This membership lasts for as long as you're a CuriosityStream subscriber, so you'll never miss one of those high-budget uploads from me if you're a member. And if you're not sure about it, the first month is free as long as you click the link at the top of the description or use my promo code TIERZOO at signup. But yeah, thanks for listening to my pitch. I really want people to see my Dinokairos video, since I put a ton of work into it. Thank you for watching, thank you to everyone who supports me directly via Patreon, and I'll see you next time.